Hey, what's up? Carlos on K-Love today, joined by Michael Cochren of Cochren and Co, talking all things Running Home, the new single, also a song, Grave, coming up this Easter. Let's start with the new single, Running Home. Let's work with that song. That, to me, I was telling you earlier, my favorite song you've done, but I don't know why. Why do I love this song so much? It's so good.
Man, I don't know. We really just wanted to make it feel nostalgic and capture that. I mean, the song's called Running Home, so just capture the comfortability of just like the American rock sound and just yesteryear. And this project especially, I wanted my musical influences to bleed into it even more than our first record. And I think we did that with this song for sure. I mean, I was raised on Springsteen. I was raised on, Billy Joel and Jackson Brown and just, Bob Seger and all those things that we just let kind of shine through on this song.
I was going to say this song for me has like a throwback Billy Joel kind of vibe to it, but I didn't want to say that because I was like, I don't know, maybe it's not the vibe at all. And I'm just totally throwing it off, but I'm glad I can hear that. And I feel like that's what makes a song instantly one of my favorites, because I feel like I've heard this song before, even though it's totally new. It feels familiar. And I'm excited to hear what stories are going to come out of people who hear this song and realize I can come home.
Yeah.
Like, we pretend that the gospel is so difficult, like it's so complex, but God is like, look, I love you. I have a life for you. Come get it. Like,
that's right.
Come run home. And for you with this song, like, is that your hope that people hear this song and realize they can come home?
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely telling a side of my story that I've not shared before. It's a revisit of the prodigal son story in a lot of ways. I mean, the son goes off, and then for me, I came to that moment in time, just like the prodigal son, where you're sitting there in the squalor and you're sleeping with the pigs, right? And you're there in the mess and the mud, and you're like, it would be better for me to just be a servant in my father's home than be here in this mess that I've found myself in, and just to be near home, And so you run home, but then for me, I had this view of God like he was just waiting in anger. Like he would run to greet me, and then instead of a robe and a ring and a kiss on the cheek, it was going to be a whip that he would pull out and beat me in the field and punish me for all my waywardness. But we see in that story that Jesus is telling, relating to the heart of the Father, that the Father does run to the wayward son when we return. And he does put the robe on the back, the ring on the finger, the kiss on the cheek, and throws a party. And that's the welcome home that I received from God, and that's the welcome home that's waiting. And I wanted to write a song that conveys that calls people. When you come home, everything really does change, and there's that celebration that happens. There's that peace, that comfort and love, and all those things that you think of when you think of home, like your home here. Just the security and the rest that's found in the arms of God, and he's just waiting to lavish that upon us when we come back.
You said this is sort of tied back to your life.
Absolutely.
You didn't find yourself in a pigsty.
Not literally.
Or maybe you did. I don't know.
Not literally.
I don't know your story.
I mean, I do live out in the country, so they're everywhere. But
where did you find yourself that you realized this is not where I'm supposed to be?
Yeah, I found myself looking for all those things of home, the rest, the peace, the love in the world, and I found myself really empty and miserable. I was in college, so I was raised in the church, but middle school, high school, just,
Oh, I know what it's like.
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
raised in the church. You know how to say all the right things, so no one realizes the dirty you're doing.
And it actually, I think it makes you even, I don't want to say more hollow, but it makes you so hollow on the inside when you're wearing the right face. And you're wearing the church face, but on the inside you're eroding away because you're not finding what you should be finding in Christ, with Christ. You're finding it somewhere else, and your satisfaction's trying to be found somewhere else. And so that's where I was. And I was in college, and I remember looking around at people next to me and going, okay, these are my non-believing friends, and they seem happier than me. Like I'm just as miserable as everybody else, but I claim to have this joy of Christ. So I've got to figure out what's missing here. Yeah. I've got to run home. I've got to return to the only times in my life where I felt peace. And what were those times? Well, it was times when I was with the Lord.
So the song Grave. Yeah. Obviously we're going to use it this year for the Easter campaign, but what was going through your head when you wrote it?
When we were writing Grave in the room, we had just been talking about our favorite Bible verses, funny enough, and mine is Romans 8:28. And in all things, we know that God works to the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. And we were talking about the things in our lives that we perceive as only bad, because we do go through really messed up stuff in the human experience. It's just the reality of it. And we can view those as like terminally bad. But when God gets involved in those things, God has plans outside of what we can see. And on the other side of those things is beauty and goodness. And this song Grave came from that thought that those things that we walk through that ruin our day or seemingly might even ruin our life, God is turning those even in that moment. And I think we see that played out even more beautifully in the Easter story, the Easter reality, I guess you could say. Like something as horrible as Roman crucifixion was God's plan to bring about redemption. Mm-hmm. And if he can do that with the cross, with the grave, then what can he do in our lives, in our marriage that seems to be going down the tank, whatever it is. Like if God can turn beauty from a cross and a grave and make that a symbol that Christians wear around their neck. Yeah. I mean, you know, we got cross earrings, we got cross necklaces. We find it beautiful. We put it on our wall. We look to it for hope. And that was a symbol of death and tragedy and punishment at that time. And look how God changed that.
Completely turned it around.
Completely turned it around. And so then you can say all those things that have happened to me in my life, it's just like the things that happened to Jesus that had to come about for God's will to be done for us. And if there hadn't been a grave, we'd all still be dead. Yeah. And so when that thought popped into our head, the rest of the song just kind of started rolling.
What do you get from Easter every year?
To me, Easter is like the day for myself, for Christians. I love Christmas. I love it. I love the warm fuzzies of all of that. But for me, Easter is like the point. Yeah. I mean, it's like if that's not real, if Christ didn't raise, like Paul says, then we should be pitied because we have all of our hope, all of our life stock in this thing. And if Jesus didn't raise from the dead, if he didn't die for our sins, if he didn't cleanse us in that act, there really isn't a point. Then there isn't a hope beyond this. If the resurrection's not real, we don't have the hope of resurrection, and we don't have the hope in our circumstances, because the hope in our day-to-day and the hope in the mess that we find ourselves in today is only really a hope because of the hope that's coming, because of what Christ did for us.
That's awesome. The other piece of advice from your dad that you've never forgotten, like that one dad advice you got that you're like, yeah, I'm holding on to that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really simple. I think for me, I remember going to Gatlinburg, Tennessee with my dad. I was maybe a third or fourth grader, and we were going on this hike on the Smoky Mountains. I think it was like Chimney Top or whatever the mountain's called. And we're getting ready to go back down, but we're standing in this clearing, and it's fall, and everything's beautiful. And my dad has me and my brother come up and stand next to him, and he just goes, take moments in your life to look at stuff like this. Yeah. Take moments to calm down and see what's around you. And it wasn't even as deep as what I've taken it now. But I remember that there's a photo of us standing there too. Like I just remember that. My dad literally, I think, just meant take moments to look at nature, and it's pretty. But I've just taken that to like take moments to just look at the beauty around you and just the things that God shows you. And so I've taken it probably way deeper than he meant it.
No, you know what? Honestly, but especially the world we live in today, like the Instagram world, everyone's trying to get the photo. There's a picture of LeBron James when he broke the scoring title in the NBA. Everyone in the arena has their phones out taking this one picture. But there's one guy, this one older guy on the sideline, no camera, just watching, taking it in. And I'm like, I need to be more like that guy.
Yeah, he remembers what it looked like, not what his phone showed him or you know, like he remembers real memories.
Yeah, he has a core memory now of witnessing that moment, right? Yeah. Everyone else has got a memory on Facebook, which is more valuable. And I think lately I'm guilty of this, like looking at what I could capture on Instagram or social media or the photos I can take, but I'm missing the memory.
Yeah. So. I had a pastor tell me not too long ago, like, he just made the statement about being in the room and being in the moment, but he's called it being in the room. You know, like make sure you're in the room with people. When you're spending time, when you're doing this, when you're that, be in the room. And that's like hard as an artist when you're out. And it's like, it's so easy to start going through the motions, and like, it's so easy to kind of get lost in, you know, what's going on in your day or the things like I have like a little distracted personality anyways. And so when I'm talking to people and I'm hearing stories or whatever, it's so hard sometimes just to like see it and be in the moment. But every time I like intentionally do that, I'm super blessed by it. And I could tell like people are blessed by the real me and not like the distracted, you know, put on the show me.
Yeah, totally get that. Michael, goodbye.
No. Don't let the door hit you on the way out as you're running home.
Oh! Oh, that's it. No, seriously, thank you for your time. Appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.